I'm going to tell you who should be the front runner for the Heisman. I understand the long odds of this. I understand how rarely this happens in history. But the truth of the matter is, Ed Oliver, defensive tackle from the University of Houston, should be the leading Heisman candidate.
The University of where, Will? Nebraska, did you say? Oh, Houston. What state is that in?
Oh, you think it's bias? Oh, you think I've got an agenda? Oh, you think I'm doing this for the Lone Star State? I see. Well, hear me out. He's one of the only sophomores, he might be the only sophomore to ever win the Outland Trophy. That would be last year. He absolutely destroys offensive lines. He's far and away what everybody considers, from the ESPN to Sports Illustrated, the best player in college football. He will most likely be the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft, the first defensive tackle since, I believe, '94. It's not a question of how good Ed Oliver is, or actually even how much better he is than whoever you two will pick. The only issue with Ed Oliver is he plays the wrong position. And you asked me should. And if the Heisman Trophy is only for quarterbacks and occasionally for running backs, let me know, because the rest of us can stop watching and those guys can stop trying to compete for the Heisman. Until then, if it's still for the best player in college football, it should be Ed Oliver.
Well, first of all, First of all, Ed Oliver, I can respect where you're coming from, Will Cain, because I understand you're just looking at his ability and you're not looking at anything else, but that would be you. That's fine. I will tell you this. Let me just say why I'm just going to disqualify Oliver, and there's no disrespect to him. I'm sure he's going to be a stud. Just looking at the schedule. Rice, Arizona, Texas Tech, okay. Tulsa, East Carolina, Navy, South Florida, SMU, Temple, Tulane, and Memphis. I mean, come on. And the bottom line is that when you think about it, it's not his fault, the schedule. But people are going to take the schedule into consideration when you're thinking about the excellence of a particular player for an individual award. I just think that's what they're going to do, Will. In my case, you know who I'm a fan of for the Heisman? This kid, Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. This brother's something special. Now, he didn't look special against Ohio State when they got romped 41-15. Okay, I get all of that. But against everybody else, this brother was nothing short of sensational. I mean, he's had 283-yard rushing games, a 249-yard rushing game, 183, 153, 149. This brother rushed for over 1,900 yards last year. He's in the Big Ten. He's going to have Michigan on the schedule. He's going to have Nebraska on the schedule. He's going to go up against stiff competition. He's going to get the ball because particularly with inclement weather conditions, you're not going to see people flinging the football all over the place. He's going to get his opportunity to really touch the football in that running game, and I just think it's one of those situations when I look at him right now, other than this kid at Stanford, Bryce Love, I think Jonathan Taylor is the guy to watch.
No.
I think Jonathan Taylor is the guy to watch for the Heisman.
Bryce Love is the answer. You guys are, for the second time in a row, I'm accused of being overly cerebral, but in fact, the runner-up for the Heisman, who was the one guy, when I had my eyeballs on Saquon Barkley, I'm not saying this now because the Giants drafted him. I wanted the Giants to draft him, a running back, second overall, because Saquon Barkley was unlike anything I'd seen in recent years, and that includes Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott and all these great running backs. Barkley was something different. If not for Saquon Barkley, I just said Bryce Love. He just happened to be playing the same season as like an all-world, like transcendent phenomenon. But Bryce Love was the one guy you watched last year where you said, maybe Saquon Barkley has some run here. Maybe there's someone to compete with him. And, of course, because he's on the West Coast and you get the, it's later and you don't see it as much and he's not as exposed. But Bryce Love is the guy. He was the runner-up to the Heisman for a reason, a sprinter, earlier in his life. And he's the guy. Like, running back is a repeatable skill.
Hold on.
He's going to do that again.
Listen, it's all love, Will.
Here's the thing. The question wasn't who will win the Heisman, all right? The question was who should win the Heisman. Anybody can look at the Heisman odds and tell you who will or who's most likely to win the Heisman. No disrespect to either of those guys. Obviously, Bryce Love is up there. He ran for over 2,000 yards last year. Stephen A., I'm going to tell you this. I don't hate that Jonathan Taylor pick at all. That Wisconsin offensive line is stout. And I think Wisconsin's a sneaky team this year. I'll teach you guys something about college football here. Watch Wisconsin for that college football playoff. But I'm telling you this. I'm answering the question, who should? And listen, What's the big story that potentially could come out today, right? It's that Aaron Donald could reset the market on defensive tackle, on defensive players in the NFL. We're learning to value the game of football beyond the people that hold the ball itself.
Well,
Aaron Donald is now, according to many, Louis Riddick among them, the best player outside of any quarterback in the NFL.
Okay.
It's happening again at the collegiate level. Its name is Ed Oliver.
Well, first of all, Will, you know, I appreciate you recognizing and appreciating my Jonathan Taylor pick. What I don't appreciate about you is your unwillingness to accept the fact that we understand English. We know the question was, not should. We understood that. We get it. The point is, we don't agree with you. I'm using the schedule as a big impediment to the success of your pick, the level of competition this man is going to go against, and I think that will ultimately kind of get him. He'll win a Defensive Player of the Year award possibly, but to call the Heisman Trophy winner, I don't think that's going to happen. I love the Bryce Love pick. I just don't know about the durability factor. I think that he's somebody that could end up, I think, getting hurt cost them last year a little bit. Jonathan Taylor, and not only that, out west with the weather conditions being considerably better, Max, I think it's one of those situations where you're going to see Stanford doing a lot of different things. Whereas with Wisconsin, you're going to see them playing smash mouth football.
Well,
they're going to run it, and I think that's what Jonathan Taylor.
I'll say this quickly. Will, to your point that people are learning to value players who don't hold the ball and look at Aaron Donald and the contract he's about to get, well, part of that is based on what they think you can do in the future. And defensive players, even elite defensive players, though their careers aren't quite as long as people suspect, they're going to last longer at an elite level than a running back. But so running backs never really get paid. But a difference maker at running back in the present at that moment, how are your Cowboys without Ezekiel Elliott? A difference maker. A lot of running backs are excellent, but the ones who are even special among the special, those guys can change the whole game. Le'Veon Bell, those guys can be as valuable as many quarterbacks.